My name's David Johnson, and the first instance I became involved with the forum was a visit to Pride about 6 years ago, I think it was, where I saw a number of people from college that were also involved, that had been invited to take part, and that sparked my interest, and sort of went on from there. And I knew the then chairman, Kev, as a personal friend, but didn't realise anything like that was happening. So I came from a village outside the town up until about I started working in Barnsley in 1990, and that's really when my life in Barnsley took off. But being involved in the gay scene really didn't happen until around about 2000 or thereabouts, 2000, 2001. Taking off on the history side, as I say, it's been quite enlightening to actually see some names that I recognise, and to see family names of people that I might not actually know that are around today, and might be cousins, sons, daughters, whatever, of the families that are named. I mean, even the recognition of some of the old characters from Thurnscoe and Goldthorpe. Bolton-on-Dearne I don't think has ever come up, but certainly Thurnscoe, Goldthorpe, that area. I think there's a couple from Great Outen as well that I seem to remember. I always saw the mining community as a sort of very much male-dominated, macho kind of industry, and it never actually occurred to me until I saw some of the records that sort of went, oh dear, maybe things didn't quite happen as they were supposed to happen in the mining industry, and maybe those prejudices still hold true, but I don't think these days that they do by any standard. I think things have come on a great deal, and I dare say there's a heck of a lot more under there that we've not found. And it's something I'd like to keep going, and it's kicked my interest off in my own family as well. So I've now got my ancestors and whatever's going off in the underlying gay history of Barnsley. It was quite surprising that when we were stood outside what is now the Yorkshire Building Society, realising that back only 60 years ago it was a pub and it was a gay meeting venue. I didn't know that, but that pub was still there as I was growing up until the 70s, when they flattened a lot of Barnsley and rebuilt it. And then I remember the first venue, the one I first remember was Charlie's Bar, that then became Baker Street, that Andrew mentioned earlier. And from that, when Charlie's and Baker Street was closed down, which was originally the Warncliffe pub, it moved into a more modern place that was actually in the old court building that's now burnt down. It was called Chicago Rock, and it became Camp Rock. But you know, I mean, in the 80s and 90s, Barnsley had just the one night, and it was on a Tuesday, and it was, as been said, very difficult to get to if you were working a 9-to-5 job, because it didn't start 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night and finished at something ridiculous like 4 or 5 a.m. So you couldn't really enjoy it as much as you'd like to. Well, I would only talk about my own experience. In the 80s, you don't say anything, you don't go out, profess it, you know, you kept it really locked down for yourself. In the 90s, I got out of South Yorkshire as much as possible, went into West Yorkshire, Leeds most weekends, because they had a gay scene, people were relaxed about it, people didn't care. Coming back to South Yorkshire, you almost felt as though you had to enclose yourself in a bubble or lock yourself away because you were different to everybody else. And really, it's only since the turn of the millennia that things have started to relax much more around here. and become much more open. I can remember having a conversation with an old friend of mine who I believe was a councillor way back when, sometime in the 80s, and a councillor at that time, they were talking about having some sort of festival or some sort of remembrance type of thing 20 years after the 67, and AIDS was going balmy, going rife, and apparently one councillor had said in open meeting, AIDS will never come to Barnsley because there aren't any puffs. And I thought, yeah, okay, if only you knew the truth. And there was a name attached to that councillor, but I'll not say it. Apparently he was cried down quite a lot. But, I mean, I'm in my own profession. I can now feel relaxed and actually state who I am, what I am, where I'm from. Whereas 20 years ago, when I first started, I didn't do anything like that. Big no-no, you don't say anything. Clause 28 was still around, and you couldn't say anything, basically. Now you can. And I actually outed myself to the group of people I worked with, and out of the 10 that I worked with, 9 were completely shocked, because I managed to hide it that well. And when I did out myself, they all went, well, if we didn't know, we'd have had a ruddy party. So things have changed and moved on that much. These days I can walk around the place I work and actually wear a rainbow lanyard with pride and not feel that I'm going to be accused of anything, not feel I'm going to be subject to any prejudice or any sort of negative comeback at all.